It's another day, left jab, right jab, this is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim, looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting, if you lose, keep your chin up. You know how the game go, I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show, this the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What's up, you guys? MMA live discussion episode 26. On today's episode, we have Logan Storley joining us, Bellator welterweight fighter, and one of the top prospects in the game. If you want to even call him a prospect, I mean, at this time, he's pretty much established. He's 11-1, one of the top fighters in the game in the welterweight division. So very excited to chat with him once he joins us, which should be relatively soon. Other than that, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we had 3 events that just surpassed us. We had the big UFC 257 event with Connor McGregor losing to Dustin Poirier. I know you guys want to do a little bit of talking about that card. And obviously, we had 2 other cards, just recently pass as well. And then we could also take a look ahead into the big heavyweight bout that's going to be taking place in the main event. Alistair Overeem fighting Alexander Volkov, which I think is an excellent matchup. And as far as the prediction video for that card, I should have that out to you guys by the latest tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow morning, even more so. I've been really prying into that card, and I think there's some really solid spots to make some money. I'm not sure exactly how you guys are feeling about that card, but I do think that there's some solid spots to make some money. And man, and in the meantime, before Logan gets in here, I say we take a look at UFC 257. I would love to recap that with you guys. And we'll start right off the rip, man, with the Poirier versus McGregor card. I was just talking about this on my on my Instagram live video about how, I knew Dustin Poirier was the play as far as betting, if you were going to bet on that fight. Unfortunately for me, I was a little bit too emotionally attached to Conor McGregor there and wanted to stay away from that fight. I do highly regret that now. Even though I made it a very profitable event for that card, there was some real value on Dustin P. And I had the bet slip. I had $1,000, man, ready to go on Bovada. I had it in the bet slip, and I didn't have it in me to do it. I really wanted to root on Connor there. And obviously when you got money against your boy, it's really kind of hard to do that. There's times where I'll say, I'm going to put some money here because it's the intelligent move, but I'm still going to root my boy on. But it doesn't work like that, man. Money kind of takes over at that point, especially when you're talking big bucks, where you're talking about $1,000 on Dustin, which are with a return of like 2 points. I forget what I was getting them at, plus 270 or whatever it was at the time. You're talking about another 2.7K. So you're talking about almost $4,000 coming back in your hand. When you're watching a fight like that, it's kind of hard to root your boy Connor on. The money kind of takes over. So I took a step back there, and then you saw how things played out. The leg kicks were absolutely lethal. Absolutely lethal by DP. It really almost seemed like Connor's never faced somebody that's really worked the calf kicks and the leg kicks like Dustin did in that fight. I really do think that Connor's going to go back to the drawing board. He's going to learn from that fight, and he's going to have to figure some type of way where, he could avoid those kicks, but, still try to inflict his own damage there. If you guys want to see, some really good breakdowns of the fight and whatnot, you got to check out Dan Hardy. Dan Hardy is really good at doing that. And he talks about some possibilities that Connor could do in the future, or, things that he couldn't have done based on the stylistic matchup of how these guys, were squaring off, stance wise and whatnot. So that's a fight. I'll tell you the truth. Conor McGregor did land some nice shots in that fight. If you remember, he was wobbling Dustin a little bit with the jab and whatnot. But the more I saw the way that Dustin's defense was showing up, the boxing defense, you saw how he was kind of rolling with the punches. He was keeping his guard up nice and tight. I kind of had a bad feeling towards the end of that first round. Dustin had an excellent game plan of going in and grappling, getting the takedown, making Connor work to get back up. And, it was tough for him there, man. What do you think? What do you think of my boy Chandler? Hey, I love Chandler, man. Chandler was one of my official plays on the card. So that was an excellent fight to watch. But you guys, I got Logan here, so I'm going to bring Logan in, and we'll kick things off with the interview. What's up, Logan? How you doing?
Hey, good. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. Thank you for giving us your time today or tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
So for everybody listening, Logan Storley, Bellator welterweight fighter, big time wrestler, huh, man? A 4-time Division I All-American and a 6-time state high school wrestling champion, who has since brought his game over to the MMA world. So what's new with you, Logan? How's life treating you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Just hanging out, and we're waiting to get the schedule from Bellator. Want to get in there again. We all do, and kind of start kicking this thing off and get the fights going. So, that's where, me and everybody else in Bellator is at right now. It's just we're waiting for the call and hoping for a schedule to be released here soon.
Good stuff. So initially, you are from I don't want to get the Dakotas mixed up there. You're from South Dakota, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Dakota, and you actually, if I got this right, you went to high school, the same high school as Brock Lesnar, correct? And the same college.
Yep. We have the same high school wrestling coach and all that. So
that's a trip, man. And so growing up where you were from, was wrestling very big, just around the entire area over there? Was wrestling like a big sport over there in South Dakota?
Yeah, we've had 6 Olympians from South Dakota is the state of 850,000 people. And we've had 6 Olympian wrestlers from that state. And, basketball and football, just you don't see as many guys go Division I and go to the Olympics or go play in the NFL. We just don't have as many people or pro athletes. Whereas wrestling, we've had a lot of guys have success in college and the Olympic level. And, we don't really have any hockey. So it's either wrestling or basketball. Those are only 2 winter sports in South Dakota. And so, it was just a lot of hard-nosed people, and, wrestling's a good fit for that.
Good stuff. Now, as decorated as a wrestler as you are, what age did you start wrestling, and how serious were you into wrestling at what age?
I started at 5 years old, and then about 7 or 8, I started taking it pretty serious. I had success and I enjoyed it. It was a one-on-one sport, and that's what I loved about it. It was me, it was what I did extra that showed up. It wasn't on any teammates. It wasn't on, any of that. And that's what I loved about it. It was just, and it's, it's a fight with a little more rules is really what wrestling is. And so I loved it when I was little, and my mom said I had too much energy, so she pushed me over there, and it happened to work out pretty well. So.
Oh yeah. So then, obviously now where we're at, you're one of the top MMA fighters in the world. And, how was your introduction from, being a stud wrestler, compared to coming over to the MMA world? How did that transition? Did you also have any type of martial arts background growing up when you were in your youth?
So I had 3 amateur fights in high school. So I got to spend my senior year. Brock was the Ultimate Fighter coach. So I went and spent some time with Tony Ferguson as a senior in high school, sparring and wrestling with him and getting him ready. Because everybody else was a bigger guy for Brock. And so they'd bring me in because I was a 171 pounder and Tony was fighting 55, or was he 70 or 55? I forget where initially he was on the season. But yeah. So it was good for me, I got to wrestle with him, give him hard pushes, and got to spar with him as an 17-year-old kid. And I had 1 fight as a sophomore, and then maybe 2 fights as a junior. There was no commission in South Dakota at that time. So everything was just, it was just kind of whatever, if you're over 16, your parents signed off, you could fight. And so yeah. I had 3 amateur fights in high school, and then got to spend time with Tony and Brock, Marty Morgan, who's a national champ wrestler, Brock's MMA coach. So I got a lot of experience in those last 2 years of high school. And so then I saw Tony start doing what Tony was doing, and I was like, I sparred with that guy. I've wrestled with him. I know where I'm at. And then I was wrestling in college. And so that's kind of, as soon as I saw that, I knew I could go and compete right away.
Wow. Yeah. Some people would say, I mean, sitting here talking with you, some of the like the situation that you were groomed through, some people would say that's about as good as it gets. I would say, I mean, having the wrestling background, being able to brush shoulders with guys like Brock Lesnar, Tony Ferguson around that age, you know what I mean? Getting introduced to MMA. I mean, I think that's the way to do it. So it seems like you had a lot of things going for yourself transitioning into the MMA game.
It worked out well. And, it was kind of a perfect storm for me, just the people that I knew and, small town, what are the odds, kind of thing. And, I can't complain about it. And I took as much from it as I could at that time, and worked out well.
Just to touch upon the wrestling one more time. I have a question for you. Being that you started training wrestling around age 5, which is very early, right? But of course, I'm sure there's thousands, if not more, thousands upon thousands of kids that wrestle from an early age like that. What do you think was the difference between some of those kids that wrestle their entire life compared to somebody like you that also wrestles their entire life, but is a 4-time, Division I All-American, a 6-time state champion? Like, what was that X factor that you had?
For me, it was, I guess my parents never really pushed me. It was all me. I wanted to do it, and so I got an wrestling academy down here with Sanford and Barwis. And so, but just even back home, I think some parents just push too much, and their kids don't love it. Their parents love it more than the kid. And so for me, it was, I wanted to do those things. I wanted to be great. I wanted to be a 6-time state champ. And as a 7th grader, I was 12, 13-year-old kid. Like, that was my goal. And each year, I did the extra things and wanted to wrestle and go to camps, and my parents never forced me to do anything. So that's like the biggest difference is for me was I loved it and I enjoyed it, and that's what I wanted to do. And so, it's hard, and so, obviously it comes down to a certain amount of natural ability and what you can do with your body. And also if you're willing to put in the work. So if you love the sport, you're willing to put in the work, and you got a couple gifts, it can work pretty well. But I would say the biggest thing is just kids need to want to do it for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. It's funny that you say it like that, because somebody like me, I kind of always had that type of passion, but I didn't necessarily get myself involved in wrestling and all this and that. And, I find myself wanting to push my son, as he's only 3 months old, but I find myself wanting to throw him in all these things that I wish I did. I started training MMA when I was 23. So, it's not really that late, but these are things I want to kind of push upon my kid.
Yeah.
But you bring up a lot of good points. It's tough, right? When you try to push these things upon your kid.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I coach Gilbert Burns' 2 sons, Robbie Lawler, Greg Jones, so I have like all these, guys who've been very successful, and it's just pretty chill. No one's really, just kind of, they're having fun, and they're little guys running around and falling over and just trying to learn one little thing. And whereas there are some kids that are just, crazy good already at 7 years old, hitting high level technique. Youth wrestling's just, it's at a different level than when I was there. And it's crazy how good some of them are, but we see a lot of them burn out. Just, they hit 12, 13, 14 years old, times that no one remembers. No one talks about what Brock Lesnar or me or Cael Sanders. Nobody knows what, these guys wrestling the NCAAs or Olympics. Nobody cares what they did when they're 10 years old or 7 years old. And so that's kind of where I don't know, my 2 cents to parents is like, it doesn't matter right now. You're not getting a Division I scholarship right now. They're not winning Olympic titles right now or NCAA titles. So just let them kind of figure it out. They'll figure it out. And if they don't, they don't, and it's pretty simple how it is.
Good point. And as you mentioned, you're over there at Sanford MMA. It's kind of funny. I was born in Deerfield Beach, born and raised around the area. So, I'm down over here now. Yeah. So Sanford MMA, I mean, you got some of the best guys in the world to sharpen iron with, right? Like Michael Chandler, who's coming off an amazing victory.
Yep.
Burns, as you mentioned. Can you tell us what kind of gravitated you towards South Florida and Sanford MMA? Because, you know, South Dakota is not necessarily right down the block.
Yeah. So me, Chandler, Bader, Dalloway, Lawler, all have the same manager. And so I met Michael Bader, Michael, Rockhold, all those guys when I was younger, still in college. I got to meet them at one of the LFA events or something like that. And so then I signed with them, and then me and Chandler were good friends. And I was living in Vegas. Me and Chandler did some camps together in Arizona. And so he helped me and I helped him, and we just stayed in touch. And then he moved down to Arizona, kind of fell apart, and I moved to Vegas and he came down to South Florida, and I broke my hand. I was kind of at a standstill, you know, I was 4-0, but I hadn't fought in a few months, and I was like, something's got to change. And called Michael, and he said, pack a bag, come down. And 2 weeks later, I was down in South Florida for like a 4-week camp, maybe like a 2 weeks, just to try it out. And then I moved in with Chandler and lived with Chandler for, I think, my first 2 or 3, his 3 fights or something like that, my first 3 fights. So me and Chandler spent a lot of time. So it's good to have a guy like that, a role model. And then me and Robbie Lawler really kicked it off. So spent a lot of time with Lawler and Chandler when I was really young. And now I spend a lot of time with Gilbert. And so 3 good guys to be pretty good friends with that you can call and just chat and see what's up. And so those 3 have really helped me, and the best of the best right there.
Yeah. South Florida is a little different, huh, than South Dakota, I assume, huh?
Yeah.
Especially like Deerfield Beach.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
A little warmer, so I can't complain about that. But no, it's been good. I've been down here 3 years now, 3 years, I think. And, you know, I'm happy, and I got a great team, and we got a great gym, brand new gym, and some of the best coaches and training partners in the world. So, I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah. Now, just to kind of catch us up to recent times. So, you know, you did debut over in Bellator back in 2017, I believe. Can you kind of run us through, like, when you signed with Bellator, you know, did you have options maybe to go to the UFC or Bellator? Is Bellator a promotion that you always wanted to fight for? You know, where do you stand on that?
We had I think Dana White Contender Series, right? Was it the Dana White Contender Series? We had that up there, but it wasn't a guarantee. You know, if they didn't like the way you won, and I didn't like the Reebok deal, just came into effect. And I've got some good sponsors that, you know, back me, and to me, it just wasn't worth it. Kind of running it down, and, you know, if you would have said no to Bellator and, you know, slipped on a banana peel and lost a fight that you should have won, now you got to go back and win 3 or 4 fights in the LFA or, you know, regional shows. And if it would have been a win and you're in, probably different, you know. But Bellator treated me really well. Chandler was there. I talked to my manager and Lawler and Chandler, and they all said, you know, go to Bellator, you know, it makes sense. It's a guaranteed deal. You can fight in a few months, sign the contract, and that's what I did. And so I've been happy with them. And that's just kind of where we're at right now.
Good stuff. Yeah. So after you sign with Bellator, you string off 6 victories in a row and pretty much dominate all your opponents. You know, I've been watching all your fights. You go in there and just, you're smashing these dudes up. If we could, you know, we'll go to your last fight, because I believe your last fight was a very entertaining fight. And, you know, leading up to that fight, I was very much looking forward to it. I mean, 2 of the top welterweights in the world. And I feel that the MMA world, you know, a lot of maybe the more casual fans, you know, that only watch the UFC don't necessarily know about fighters, you know, like you guys over in Bellator. And, you know, when I'm watching that fight, I'm like, these 2 guys right now can wreak havoc in the UFC. So, and that fight was an amazing fight. Obviously, it didn't go your way. It was a split decision loss for you. You know, how do you feel with that fight? Is that a fight that you want to run back? Is that a fight you're eyeing a rematch with Almasov, or how do you feel about that?
You know, obviously I'm disappointed. I thought I did enough to win. I thought I pushed the pace, rocked him a couple times, almost had him choked out in the 3rd. So, you know, it came down to a few little positions that they gave him points for defending and landing some smaller punches. That it is what it is. He's an amazing competitor, and I got nothing bad to say about him. Obviously, first career loss, and especially when they call my name first, then his, and then they called his, and it just it's disappointing. And that guy, he was 24-0, and that puts me probably right to the title fight. And so to lose like that in a close fight like that, it stings. It stings a lot. I hadn't lost in, I don't know what it started fighting in 2015. It's 5 years. And so, yeah, it is what it is. I learned a lot from it. I know I wore him out and got him tired. But yeah, I know for a fact that, I've trained with the best. I've trained with Usman. I've trained with Burns. I know where I'm at. I'm confident with where I'm at. And, he's over there at American Top Team. And I'm sure he knows exactly where he's at with, when Covington used to be there and Masvidal and all these guys. I don't know what they're training, but I've, heard stories and, that he does pretty well for himself when, in training sessions and everything else. So I'm very confident with my ability. I mean, that's the one thing that kind of sucks about, not getting to fight on a main or co-main on a big card in the UFC. Everyone knows your name from one fight. And, I've had 7, and I just fought a guy who's one of the best in the world. And I thought we put on a great fight, and, we don't get really hardly any media recognition afterwards. And it is what it is. For me, it's, it's financial decisions and to go be world champ. I don't care where it's at, Bellator, the UFC. At the end of the day, we can't fight forever, and we're trying to make as much money as we can during our short window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point that you bring up. And that's what I wanted to ask you too. My next question, it was, what was your overall goal in this MMA game? Which I think you mentioned, you want to be a champion. Doesn't necessarily matter UFC, Bellator, but you want to be a champion where you're fighting. So, yeah. And right now, the welterweight champion, I don't know why I slip in my mind. Is it Lima? Who's the welterweight? Yeah, Lima's the champ right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Bellator welterweight division is absolutely stacked. I mean, like I said, those guys can go in the UFC and take out a lot of those guys. So,
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's Lima and Amasov and me, and Gracie, MVP. I mean, it's a lot of guys, and it's stacked, and a lot of us are younger. Amasov, me, Gracie are all under 30, and so we all have, I think Amasov's 25-0 now. I'm 11-1. Gracie's 12-1. So, it'd be fun to get to go and fight some of those guys. But so we'll see. I got 2 fights left on this contract, and then we'll see what happens. I'm happy with Bellator, but I guess if opportunity comes up, then we'll see what happens. Go sit down and do what's best for my career.
Okay, and you did say you have 2 fights left on the contract. Okay.
Yep.
And and hopefully, I'm assuming both those fights will be hopefully within 2021, right? You should.
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough for me and everybody with the pandemic. I only fought the year before. I only fought once. When I first signed, I fought 4 times in 13 months, and then I fought once in a year, and I fought 2 times in the last 2 years. So it's just, and it's tough, especially when you come off a loss, you want to get back in there right away. And so I think we're ready for Bellator to open back up and to start fighting again. It's really, you got to get more cage time. That's what it comes down to. And so I'm excited to get back in there soon.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, I appreciate you giving us your time, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's next from you. You want to let the fans know anything? You want to shout any sponsors out, anything? You want to let the people know where they could follow you, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
Yeah, they can follow me I think Logan _Storley on Instagram, and then Twitter's Storley Storm. So go follow me. I don't post as much maybe as I should, but I guess it is what it is. But it's over there. And then I want to thank my sponsors, American Ethanol and Sanford Health. So without sponsors, us fighters, it'd be tough. And so I think we're all pretty thankful for what they do for us and help us reach the pinnacle of the sport.
Good stuff, man. Nicely said.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate you. You take care. We're looking forward to seeing you in there soon.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, Logan. There you go, Logan Storley. Like we were talking about, man, the welterweight division over in Bellator, those guys would come right into the UFC. And in my opinion, those top guys like him and the guys we just talked about would take a lot of the top welterweights out over in the UFC. I truly believe that. So, Logan Storley, if you're not up to date with who he is, which I'm sure a lot of you guys obviously are, that are watching this show, you guys are pretty much diehards, but Logan Storley, the guy Amasov that he fought is very, very, he's a very high level fighter. And Storley's wrestling and the pace that he puts on, you watch that fight. Again, it was a split decision loss for him. I mean, it could have went any way. In the third round, I believe Amasov kind of shined in the first round. The longer that fight went on, we saw Storley start to take over that fight. Storley looked very strong in the third round, was getting takedowns, was pushing the pace, and he would break many men inside the UFC. And I think in his next fight and within the Bellator organization, I think he's going to be running through some guys. All right, guys, what do we got over here? Connor is just keeping a job for the judge. All right. Lara is a great underdog. Okay, looking forward to the upcoming card. Looking at Lara Procopia taking on Molly McCann. Yeah, I mean, where's that line at right now? Anyway, I believe Molly McCann is right around a -190, -200 favorite. Molly McCann is a girl. She has good hands, good boxing. I think that her takedown defense definitely needs to be worked upon. We saw that, I believe, in her last fight. She pretty much got ragdolled in there, and she was a big favorite. She lost to, I think, Talia Santos, and that was a fight she kept getting taken down. She was a big favorite. I wouldn't really trust Molly McCann, in my opinion, after the performance she just put on, especially at a line like that. I do like Molly McCann, though, as far as her stand-up. I think that she carries power in her hands that not a lot of women have. If she connects, I think she could knock some girls out. She could TKO them. She could hurt them. And just to touch upon that fight there. Let's see. Yeah, so I want to completely recap UFC 257 for you guys. We talked about the Poirier-McGregor fight. Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. As I mentioned, this was an official play of mine, and I was very, very excited to see Michael Chandler go out there and get the knockout. I was doing backflips in my living room. It brought in a lot of money for me. I put a stamp on the night as far as it being a profitable night. It would have been a profitable night either way, but I put a stamp on that. A lot of money came in. Michael Chandler is a guy, and again, Chandler trains with Storley too, man. You could pull up footage on them on YouTube, and these guys are training partners. But Chandler is a guy that I've been very high on, and I definitely saw a lot of you guys not really believing in Chandler. I mean, I felt like the majority of all you guys were on Hooker. That's everything that I was reading. Everything I was seeing was all Dan Hooker. He was rangy. He's going to connect on him. I've been watching Michael Chandler for a very long time, and I know what you're getting from Michael Chandler when he steps inside the octagon. I know he got caught recently within the last couple of years by the Pitbull brother over there. Was it Patricio? Got caught. Patricio is one of the best. I hope I'm not getting them mixed up. I think it was Patricio, not Patricky. But Patricio is one of the best fighters in the world. So, I mean, absolutely no shame in that loss. And Michael Chandler is a guy that brings the fight. He's super aggressive. You saw him chasing Hooker around the octagon before he got the knockout. When he got caught in that one fight, and he's bringing the fight, he's getting in Hooker's face. He's getting in, the Pitbull guys over there. He's getting in his face, and sometimes you're going to get caught with the shots. The fight game, things like that happen. I think that he's learned from that. Michael Chandler, I'll say it again, training with Henry Hooft and all those guys, training with Logan Storley, training with Burns, training with Usman. I mean, we're talking about the cream of the crop. We're talking about the best fighters in the world. So that's what I knew I was getting. And when you put a +120 line in front of my face on Michael Chandler, Hooker's been putting it together as of recently. But, let's not forget, he's dropped the ball before in a couple spots. He's also shined too. I'm not trying to hate on him, but I consider Chandler a top of the line type of fighter, and I'm not necessarily sure if I'm there with Dan Hooker. I think he has potential to keep growing and whatnot, but mean, the fight could have went differently. Maybe he doesn't get caught. Maybe the fight ends up playing out differently, but Chandler's the truth. So, now Chandler, in my opinion, being that I've been watching Michael Chandler for as long as I have and knowing what he brings to the table, I feel that he's next for a title shot. But I do see a lot of you guys saying that he needs to win another fight. I don't necessarily agree with that because I know the work that he's been putting in throughout the years, and I look at who's next. Dustin Poirier was talking about, Chandler's not deserving of the next fight. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not one to say Dustin's scared of a fighter and he's trying to avoid a fight. But how can you say Chandler's not right there? Or if anything, he's 1A, 1B, him and Charles Oliveira. I think it's Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler as far as where we stand right now. So Dustin said let them two fight first and then the winner goes on to fight him. But I wouldn't mind seeing Chandler hop right in there because there's been a lot of rumors that Charles Oliveira was dodging Hooker too. So I don't know. We got a question from Pablo. At what odds would you take Askren to beat Paul? To be honest, I haven't looked too much into this, but I'll just tell you off the top of my head how I feel about the fight. I think this is a very tricky matchup. When we talk about this fight, I've talked to some people and they're like, oh, this guy, Jake Paul, is he's not even really he's not even a real fighter. He's not even a real boxer. He's going in there. He's knocking out basketball players and it's all hype. He's a YouTube star, this and that. I don't necessarily agree with that. When you run the tape back on that Nate Robinson knockout, I thought that was a nice, I believe he hit him with the overhand right, but a nice right hand. You see the combinations. He's a decent boxer. And I truly believe that he's training with some legit trainers and boxers and whatnot. And I think that I think he has power in his hands and he can knock dudes out, Now, when you talk about him fighting Ben Askren, people they misunderstand it. They think, oh, Ben Askren's a real fighter. I was talking to somebody recently. They're like, oh, Ben Askren, he was a top of the line welterweight fighter in the UFC. Think about what Ben Askren was, though. Ben Askren was a guy that, even up to the Robbie Lawler fight, he went into every single fight that he had, and he took his opponents down and he smashed them. He smashed all of his opponents. I think the only fighter that he didn't really consistently even take down was Jay Haran. But besides that, he took down everybody and he smashed them. You tell me where Ben Askren has ever looked good on the feet. You tell me where you've ever seen anything decently impressive from Ben Askren on the feet with his boxing, because I don't think you can pull that up. I don't think you could point that out. You think about the Damian Maia fight. The boxing wasn't looking good. Of course, the MMA game is a different type of game than boxing, so you have to be ready to stuff takedowns. So it was a different type of fight. But I don't know, man. My initial gut is telling me that this guy Jake Paul is going to go in there and he's going to win this fight. I think that it's probably going to go to decision, though. I think that Ben Askren's extremely tough, and I think that Ben Askren has good striking defense. I think he has underrated striking defense. Trains with Rufus Sport and all them. I think he knows how to avoid the big shots. You don't see him getting connected on the feet. I don't think he's barely ever been connected on besides the Jorge Masvidal knee. So I'm kind of thinking I'm taking Jake Paul by decision. At what line would I want to take Askren at to beat Paul? Maybe if you're giving me like a plus, I haven't even looked at the line, guys. I'm telling you honestly, I really don't even know where the line is on that fight. Maybe if you give me like a plus 180, 170, maybe that's appealing. Anything above that, I don't know. Where's the line at? Does anybody know where the line's at on that fight? I mean, I see it all over Instagram. Everybody's talking about the Jake Paul fight. I'll be honest, not that I'm hating on that. I'll tune in and I'll watch it, but I'm a guy there's a lot of fight stuff going on right now. Me, I'm into watching the best fighters in the world. Like we just talked about, Logan Storley on the show. I'm into watching fighters like that fight, some of the top MMA talent in the world. I like my boxing too, but if I'm watching boxing, I want to see some top level boxers fight. So despite being a YouTuber, Jake Paul shows basic fundamentals and has punching power. If Askren's boxing looks anything like the Maia fight, he gets KO'd. There, you heard it from Pablo. Pablo looks like he's tending to agree with what I was just saying. And, as far as the knockout, I talked about Ben Askren's defense. Yeah, but it's definitely possible. Jake Paul showed he can go out there. He can knock dudes out. I will say this though, that basketball player, Nate Robinson, if you watch that fight, that guy, he's an athletic guy, but he did not know what he was doing at all with the hands. He kept jumping in, trying to clinch, and he was leading with his head. You can tell he was not comfortable with throwing hands and throwing any type of combinations. To me, it looked like just you were watching an athlete in there. That's what he was. He was quick. You know what I mean? The way he moved and ran in, but he didn't know what he was doing. I think that Ben Askren's a guy that's a lot more comfortable on his feet. And I think he's sturdy. He's durable on the feet. So it'd be hard to take him out, in my opinion. That's why I kind of lead. I think that Paul can eke out the decision, though. I think he'll be quicker with the hands and whatnot. I'd be surprised if we see a knockout, but I would love to see it. I'd love to see a knockout either way. I'm going for Askren to win the fight, represent the MMA community, get a knockout there. But I want to see something exciting happen. I don't want to watch, a boring fight that it was a waste of time. I think Dustin saw Tyson make easy work of the person who he went to war with and said, no, thank you. I think Dustin saw Tyson make easy work of the person who he went to war with. Okay, I'm assuming you're talking about Michael Chandler. Is that what they call him nowadays, Tyson? I know he goes by Iron Mike. Okay, that's a good nickname for him, Tyson. Yeah, I mean, you bring up a valid point, man. I didn't want to say it. I mean, I kind of did say it a little bit, but I don't want to say that Dustin Poirier is scared to fight any man. But I don't know if he liked what he saw in Chandler, because Chandler will knock you out. And I'll tell you right now, I'm taking Chandler in that fight against DP. I'm taking Chandler in that fight. I think that Dustin is there to be connected on. We even saw McGregor touch him up a little bit. I think Chandler could shut his lights out. Now, if he doesn't shut his lights out, I think Dustin Poirier probably wins the decision. But I'll lean a little bit more so that Chandler goes in there and hurts Dustin. And even if he doesn't get the knockout, he puts him on Queer Street and he has him hurt and he wins that fight like that. There's a possibility as well. I looked at the UFC lightweight rankings yesterday. Connor is ranked number 6. Tony Ferguson is ranked number 7. So why not do that fight next? It makes a lot of sense. Don't want to see Connor versus Nate again. I would love to see that fight. I think that fight makes a lot of sense. Would love to see Connor versus Tony next. I think that Tony isn't necessarily the same fighter that he was just a couple years ago. I think that he's taken a lot of damage, and I think that's a nice fight for Connor there. Not to say that Tony's not a major threat to go in there and really hurt Connor, because if he survives and the fight goes into the later rounds, I could see him really hurting Connor as well. It's a dangerous fight. You guys know the deal with Tony, but I think I think that's a fight I would favor Connor. I think Connor could land some heavy hands on Tony. I wouldn't necessarily see Tony hurting Connor the way Dustin did with the leg kicks and finishing him so much early. I think Tony would try to overwhelm him and take him over in the later rounds. But going into those later rounds, I think that Connor would have some opportunities to land some heavy leather on Tony too, and disrupt him as far as the momentum he would get in that fight and whatnot. You put him on Queer Street, you wobble him. Maybe he's not the same fighter going into those later rounds. So I see Tehran disagrees with me, man. But yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. Nah, I disagree. I got Tony destroying Connor. Like I said, though, definitely a realistic possibility. Like I said, it means the fight game. Thumbs up for the teller. I appreciate you, Gowers. Appreciate you, brother. But yeah, Tehran, I mean, like I said, I'm going to edge Connor slightly in that fight. I think Connor could land some heavy hands. I think that, we saw Tony getting taken down in his last fight. But Charles Oliveira, you guys know I'm a big fan of his. But we saw him getting taken down, and Tony was looking a little bit slower in there. And let's not forget, Tony is a little bit older as well. Tony is older. I believe, what's Tony now? 36, might be like 37 by the time they have that fight. Connor's more in his prime. And mark my words when I tell you guys this, Connor is going to be extremely motivated after that loss that he just took. I guarantee you he comes back more motivated than ever, and he's going to start getting back in there, and he's going to start sharpening up his skills. I truly believe that. So, bro, Connor, man, let's go. Feels to me they should be nervous about Oliveira, that he may be good enough to blanket win the division. Why would they want this when they have Justin, Dustin, and Chandler to bang? Well, goers, I'll say this to you, man. Like I said, I'm a big Charles Oliveira fan. He's been bringing money back for me for quite some time now. I don't necessarily think that he's just a blanket fighter. In my opinion, you know, if you look at the record, Charles Oliveira is the all-time UFC submission king. He's the, in my opinion, I've been saying this for a long time. Run the tape back. Go to the timestamps of all his fights as of recently. Pull it up. I've been saying Charles Oliveira is the greatest MMA submission artist in the game, period, ever. I said that, man. I said over Damian Maia, and I stick to that. And when it's all said and done and Charles Oliveira retires from the game, he's going to have that record by a landslide. So, you know, whoever's coming up next, who's going to try to keep up with that all-time submission victory record, good luck. You better start stringing them together from a young age, because Charles has been doing it from a young age. So I'll just say that, man. And you know what? The Brazil mixed martial arts market is always big. So I don't know. I think that Charles Oliveira could be a great fighter, man, for the division. But I see what you're saying, though, too. I understand your point, though. I can't be happier for Poirier, but I also felt bad that Connor getting KO'd like that. Yeah, man, it was tough. It was tough for me. It was a very bittersweet night, man. After the Chandler win, like I said, I was doing backflips. I made a lot of money on the card. But seeing Connor get knocked out like that, being that I hesitated on the bet slip on Dustin as well, and then seeing my favorite fighter get TKO'd like that, you know, let me say something now too. You know, some people try to downplay, Connor included, try to downplay that finish. He got hurt. You know, his leg was hurt. He tried to make it seem like his leg was hurt and he couldn't stand on his leg, so he just folded up. Run the tape back, man. He ran into, I believe it was a right hook. He ran right into a right hook of Poirier as he was dipping and dodging on all those punches. One of those punches landed flush. And when it landed, it put Connor on his ass. It sat him back. And he got tagged up, man. Look at the way he went out. His eyes were like, he was out, man. I mean, it wasn't like a KO. He was asleep, but he was hurt. So as a Connor fan, man, you do not want to see your favorite fighter start to take those types of losses, because those are the ones that they start to string off back to back, man. You start getting knocked out like that, you know, you'll start to see that more and more often. So you got to be careful with that. When I know that Connor and Poirier are dads, seeing one of them KO'd like that, man, damn, that was tough. Yeah, man. I hear you 100%. I hear you. Thoughts on Volk versus Ortega? I'm taking Volkanovski in that fight. I know Ortega looked good in his last fight, but Alexander Volkanovski is, I mean, obviously he may have not won that last fight against Max Holloway, but look at the level that Max Holloway is on right now. So just, you know, think about what Volkanovski did to him in the first fight, and then even eking out that last victory. Volkanovski, I've been a big fan of his since he signed with the UFC. I think that he's a true stud. You know, he's been walking into each of those UFC fights as a big favorite, you know, starting things off, and rightfully so. His stand-up is very good. His ground game, he's a very solid guy. He used to walk around up in the 200s, I believe. You know, he was a rugby player. He's a solid man. His striking is very good. And I think he could hurt Ortega. I think he can keep the fight on the feet. I don't think that Ortega will have an easy time getting the fight down to the mat, where he could try to use some submission skills or whatnot. Ortega's looked smooth on the feet in his last fight with the boxing, but I think Volkanovski would be too much for him. And I like Volkanovski in that spot. I really do. Yeah, Goer's talking about Oliveira. Justin G would have hurt Connor too. He would have knocked him out way worse and more brutally than Dustin. He kicks way harder. I ain't going to argue with you there, man. But again, every fight's different. I definitely see what you're saying, but every fight is different, and would not be surprised if Connor was able to connect a little bit on Dustin. Excuse me, on Justin Gaethje as well. Justin is there to be hit, and Justin does make some mental errors inside the octagon at times too. So, but I hear you 100%. Did you see Justin trolling Connor after the knockout loss? Connor kind of had it coming for him after trolling Justin for getting choked out by Khabib. Justin doesn't like Connor at all. Yeah, I saw that. He was saying something to the effect that, you know, Connor wants to be all Mr. Humble, but if he would have won, he would have been chirping this and that. And I understand where he's coming from. I completely get it. These are guys that I'm big fans of regardless. So I'm a big Gaethje fan. That's a fight. You guys talking about who's next for Connor. Both those guys are coming off losses to some of the best talent in the division. You could match them up there. I think if the UFC's smart, though, they give Connor a little bit of a tune-up fight. When I say a tune-up fight, give him a guy like, I don't know, maybe a Dan Hooker matchup. Maybe Dan Hooker. I think that's a nice matchup right there. Trying to think who else. What else would be a good fight for Connor next? I mean, we talked about the Ferguson fight. Maybe Ferguson, Hooker. I would like to see him get his feet under him. He is in and out of the octagon so much. I want to see him start to really settle in there, start to be more active and string off some victories and get some momentum coming into one of those big fights. I do think that I truly believe that if Connor would have been fighting more regularly, he would have been a little bit more in tune with the calf kicks. It's a little bit different training, for those calf kicks. When you're sparring and whatnot, you don't really have guys, with wearing no shin guards, teeing off on your calves. So, I think that's going to be a big learning experience for Connor. And I think you guys would agree that Connor's hands were still looking pretty nice in the beginning of that fight. Obviously, he's dangerous in the feet. So, Chandler kind of reminds me of a pre-foot out the door Woodley. He's got that explosive athleticism. I'm a little concerned that he hasn't used his takedowns in his recent fights lately. Some points. But just to touch upon that too, Michael Chandler has some legit wrestling too. So he will be able to pull that out of his backpack when he needs it. If he's hurt or whatnot, or if there's a guy that doesn't know how to grapple, if his grappling's not on the level, Chandler will rip you down. And I've seen him smash dudes on the mat. But I hear what you're saying too. As of recently, he's been falling in love with that knockout. Yeah, I mean, well, that when I was saying a tune-up fight, I more so the way I look at it, I'll explain it like this. There's different levels, in my opinion, right now. You got Dan Hooker and Tony Ferguson, a little bit below guys, in my opinion, like Dustin Poirier, Khabib, and Justin Gaethje. I really don't want to see Connor McGregor go fight Gaethje. I don't want to see him really rematch Dustin right away. I mean, if that's what they want to do, okay. If he wants a rematch, maybe he can change it up with the leg thing, watch the calf kicks. Khabib, I don't think that's a good fight for him again. And so in my opinion, I would say after the performance that Tony Ferguson just put together against Charles Oliveira and the age that he's at, I think that that's a little bit of a step down. So when I say tune-up fight, I hear you, yeah, it ain't a tune-up fight. Tony's a beast. But he did not look that good, man, against, what's his name? Charlie Olives. If Eddie Alvarez and Dustin run it back, how do you see it going? I see Dustin Poirier knocking him out even easier. It's funny you talk about this fight. The first time Eddie and Dustin fought, I had big money on Dustin Poirier. Remember how that fight kind of ended? I think it was a no contest. All I remember is I got my money back. It was, I think it was a no contest. It was an illegal strike by Eddie. In my opinion, Dustin almost got the finish earlier in that fight. Eddie Alvarez knew he was going down, and he started getting a little crazy in there. He had a little bit of momentum, and he threw that illegal knee, I think it was. When they ran that fight back, as soon as they rescheduled that, I immediately locked that official bet in. I sent it out to everybody. I said, jump on that fight right away. And we saw how the rematch went. Dustin worked Eddie there. And if they were to fight again, I think right now, Dustin's is a way more high caliber fighter now than he was even then. And Eddie Alvarez, what's going on with Eddie? Eddie's getting knocked out over in ONE FC and whatnot. I don't know what Eddie's really going to bring to the table in a fight like that. Connor wasting a lot of his prime taking boxing matchups. Can't argue that, man. Connor getting KO'd reminded me of that anyone can get KO'd, especially if a fighter entertains the punching range. It would not be surprising if Ngannou gets chinned at some point in his career. 100%. 100% agree with you, Cayman. Ngannou is an absolute beast, and he is something to watch. But if you sit there and you trade on the feet, especially in the heavyweight division, there's going to be, you're going to get caught. We saw that with Stipe Miocic, man. Stipe got put on Queer Street back in the day by Stefan Struve. on the feet. I mean, that's a fight he should have never lost. But if you sit in range, especially Stefan Struve, right? His range is all the way across the octagon. But he clipped him with the shot. And Ngannou, I would feel comfortable taking the bet on that. Ngannou will be hurt on the feet at one point in his career and probably dropped. In that heavyweight division, he likes to trade. You saw his knockout over Rosenstruck. He looked amazing. I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but one a little bit of a different move there. We're talking about something different, man. Rosenstruck was throwing some bombs there too, but Ngannou was more crisp with his shots, and he was more committed. If you guys remember that fight, you know what I mean? You could tell that Ngannou, when he was throwing his punches, you could see it in the way he was throwing and coming at him. He believed more so. He believed in himself. He believed he was getting that knockout. Rosenstruck, I think there was a little bit of a disbelief. You saw he was a little bit more on his back foot, right? Trying to counter punch, but I think he kind of felt something coming to him. And you saw what happened there. Dustin put out the blueprint on how to beat Connor on the feet. Yeah, but I think that Connor will adapt, and I think that Connor will savvy up his game, in my opinion. But yeah, wasted. Yeah, I hear you, brother. Yeah, man. But yeah, don't sleep on Connor. I know we hold him to a very high standard. I mean, people were talking about, you think of him as the dual champion. He's this and that. He's such a great fighter. He is a great fighter. I don't necessarily believe that he's, the best. He's not the best, obviously. You got guys like Khabib, and, it's very realistic that there's a lot of guys that would take him out. Justin Gaethje. If you put a gun to my head, as much as I want to say Connor can counter-strike Gaethje or this and that, you put a gun to my head and you put my family on the line, I'm taking Gaethje to beat Connor. I'm taking Dustin in a rematch to beat Connor. I'm taking Khabib to beat Connor. I'm taking Charles Oliveira to beat Connor. So, I mean, I'm stringing off names right now that Connor, I don't think it's going to be tough for him to really hold gold. He's going to have to be super motivated, and he's going to have to put some changes in his game. He's going to have to work on some things. Because those guys are all going to be hanging out right there at the top of the division. So you're going to have to beat guys like Charles Oliveira, Gaethje, Khabib, Dustin. Good luck. Do you think maybe Connor should go back to the karate stance and get the movement guy back? It's not a horrible idea. He's going to have to work on something with that lead leg. Because like somebody said earlier, I think it was Tehran, guys are going to be whipping those leg kicks at his front leg. They're going to be working that calf kick. As you talked about the blueprint, he's going to have to figure something out for sure. It's not really a strike that's easy to check too. So the karate stance, if you're light on your feet and you choose when you want to go in and out and keep the distance, and he's going to have to figure something out. Cyborg got clipped also in that Nunez and learned her lesson real quick. Oh yeah. Amanda Nunez knocked her out. That was a fight I was so disappointed in. I was going for Cyborg, and I really, really want to see how that fight would have played out. And obviously we're never going to see that, but it was fun while it lasted, however many seconds it lasted. I'm liking Barber in her return against Grasso. Also really like Maverick against Anderson. Feeling nervous that I like these two fights so much. The Barber fight versus Grasso, that's an excellent matchup. I do think that Grasso's boxing is very good. Her stand-up's good, and she's a young chick that's elevating her overall game, fight to fight. Got to be a little bit careful with that. Macy Barber. Barber is a girl that just got beat up by Roxanne Modafferi, but I guess she had that injury. So, speaking of Roxanne Modafferi, like I said, I had that major 4-team parlay that turned into a 3-team parlay with Viviana Rojao over Roxanne Modafferi. Roxanne, the recipe to beat Roxanne is so it's right in front of your face. Just keep the fight standing and you dominate on the feet. She's just not coordinated enough. And Barber didn't go out there even before the injury. She did not look good before the injury. She didn't play things right. And, she got beat in that fight. I don't think it was necessarily just an injury. She got beat by Roxanne Modafferi. So you got to, now stylistically, Grosso's going to try to stand with her. You shouldn't have to worry about that type of thing happening, but I don't know. If you guys could, man, everybody that's watching it, I'd highly appreciate it if you guys can hit the like button for me. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I talked about it earlier. Chris Lytle was possibly going to join us tonight, but it looks like we're going to push that off, hopefully till next Thursday. Remember, we got the big Bare Knuckle FC fight with Paige Van Zant debuting over there. There's also, if you guys are BKFC fans, we got Johnny Bedford fighting Nat Win. And we got Uli Diaz with an opponent to be announced. And then we got Chris Lieben taking on Quentin Henry. Quentin Henry's a guy that's been knocking dudes out. And you guys know Chris Lieben, the crippler. I've had him on the show. I'm a little bit of a BKFC fan myself, so I know not everybody's on that train. Some people here are probably just MMA fans, but I'm going to have Chris Lytle hop on. He's the color commentator for BKFC, ex-UFC fighter, a legend in the game. And I would love to hear his thoughts on everything that's going on over in BKFC. What do you guys think? Let me know. Is that something that interests you guys? You guys can be honest with me. If you guys are more just on the MMA page, you don't really care about all that, you guys can be honest with me, man. Let me know. Women's MMA, what is your take on those? Are you talking about those two fights in particular? I got to pull up the lines in those right now. I'm trying to remember what they were. Let me pull it up real quick. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so right now we got Macy Barber right around plus 115. So, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, you are getting some good value there. And real quick, what was the other fight that you said? Maverick versus Anderson. 1 second. I'll start with the Barber fight. I do kind of like that line. If you're getting it plus 15 or better, I do like that. I think there's some value there. I think that truly is a very close fight. Again, though, Macy Barber, let's run the tape back on Macy real quick. Do you remember Macy Barber's fight against name slipping my mind? Give me 1 second. It was against JJ Aldrich. Remember the JJ Aldrich fight? She was getting tagged up in that fight. JJ was piecing her up, and she eventually started to take over that fight. She put the power shots on JJ and got the finish, but she was getting teed up on that fight. Sometimes I wonder with Macy, is it a little bit of hype around her because she has that finishing power, which you don't typically see in women's MMA. But if she doesn't get that finish, how does she perform on a fight-to-fight level? You know what I mean? If she doesn't get that finish, how's she going to look? Like, she would have lost the Aldrich fight if she didn't get that finish, in my opinion. She was losing that fight. She lost to Modafari. She had a fight against, was it Jillian Robertson? I believe it was Jillian too, right? But plus 115 or better. I think that, if you're taking dog odds there's nothing wrong with that. I truly believe that fight can go probably any way. So not a bad play at all. If you're feeling that, yeah, I'd go for that. And then Maverick, what's her name? Who's she fighting? Let me pull it up real quick. Miranda Maverick versus Jillian Robertson. Yeah, it's just speaking of Jillian Robertson. Miranda Maverick has been looking very, very good. I'm very high on her. She looked good in her last fight against Jojua. I am a fan of Jillian Robertson, though, as well. I think that Jillian Robertson is a very high-level grappler. I think when she puts her ground game together, she can really put it on these women. But we've seen her drop the ball, here and there. And I do like Maverick to win that fight. I think Maverick will have the edge on the feet. She'll be the better striker. I think she should be able to keep the fight there. I would worry, if anything, maybe Jillian gets the fight down to the mat. We've seen Jillian push a pace with the takedowns before and grind out some of these girls and pull off subs and whatnot. But that line's not horrible either. Minus 155. It's not like a very steep line. If you're liking that line, nothing wrong with that. Who do you think would win, Colby or Connor McGregor? I'd bet every dollar that I have on Colby. I'd put the house on Colby, man. I'd fly to Vegas, mortgage the house, everything, put everything up. Connor had a solid game plan in the second Diaz fight. He was incorporating leg kicks in a good, yeah. Yep. We actually saw Connor throw a nasty leg kick on Dustin too. If you guys remember, the one leg kick that he threw, if you guys remember, he landed a nasty calf kick himself. It's like he was doing it out of spite. You know, oh, you're going to kick me, I'm going to kick you back. Why not mix that in your game plan from the beginning? I think Connor is a guy that can really learn that move and start pulling that off. I wish Connor would go back to his mean guy role. If he fights Tony Ferguson, Justin G, considering those guys talk ish about him. I agree 100%. I don't like the nice guy stuff at all. It rubs me the wrong way. It makes me not as much of a fan of his as I used to be honest with you guys. I mean, I'm still always a fan, but I don't feel that same energy that I used to feel when Connor was going in there. I like the ruthless guy. I like the shit talking. I like all that, man. That's what I like. You guys know what I'm about. And yeah, man, I don't like that nice guy role. Do you still see Nate Diaz as a live dog in the division? What top fighters do you see him giving problems? I think that what top fighters do you see him giving problems to? Honestly, I really don't think that Nate would hang with any of the guys in the top of the division. I think Khabib would destroy him. I think Charles Oliveira would destroy him. I think that Justin Gaethje would destroy him. You know, I do think stylistically there's some guys that he could probably hang with in the top of the division. You know, maybe a guy like Paul Felder. I think that he could hang there with him, even though I'm a fan of what Paul Felder brings to the table. But, you know, Nate Diaz is a guy, great grappling, you know, great jiu-jitsu off his back or whatnot, you know, but he puts out the volume with his boxing. But, you know, he needs to have a stylistic matchup or a guy gasses out. You know, look at the guys that he's actually beat. I mean, look at the big names that he's beat. He's not taking out guys like Gaethje, Khabib, Charles O, all those guys. So even I think Connor even hurts him in the rematch. I think Connor finishes him. Maybe doesn't get the finish, but I think he does kind of something similar than what Masvidal did to him. I see Connor tagging him, bloodying him up. Which you guys know, Nate bloodies up easily. Ulysses. Oh, yeah, he's a scary dude. He has the record for the quickest knockout in combat sports history, and I don't think that could ever be beaten. If you actually really time the knockout, it's the quickest knockout ever. Because over in BKFC, they put you on the line right in front of each other, and as soon as the bell rang, boom, he just slept that dude. I'm very excited to see him fight again. Colby would destroy Connor, man. That's a fact. Yeah, Tony would definitely beat Nate. I agree with that as well. I believe even Paul Felder can beat Nate Diaz. You know, I was more so just bringing up a name that he could even compete with. I agree with you, Tehran, as well. I think that, you know, Paul Felder would be the favorite going into that fight. But I think it would be a close fight. Maybe Paul like a minus 150, minus 160 maybe. You know, even in that RDA fight, Paul Felder took that fight on short notice. You see how technical Paul Felder is with his takedown defense, you know, position-wise. His striking's nasty. For sure. I agree with you there. So when will the UFC release the press conference for Godzilla versus Kong for the Ultimate Monsterweight Championship? Yeah, that's a movie coming out, huh? Gotta check that out. Hopefully soon. You know, speaking of the Monsterweight Championship, did you guys check out, you know, the Mountain Man? He was over in that show. What was the name of that show? I forget the name of that show. You guys used to all watch that show. They had the red wedding and all that. It was like those medieval with the dragons and stuff. The Mountain Man. He actually just had a boxing fight. And that, you talk about a monster weight champion. That guy is humongous. I think he's 6'9", solid muscle. Who the hell am I? What's the name? Come on, somebody has to know who I'm talking about. The Mountain Man. But that guy, you know, there was actually footage of Connor McGregor sparring with that guy who I'm talking about. But can you imagine if a guy like that was actually training MMA from a young age, a frame like that? That guy, forget about it, man. If that guy was trained up, dude, he would smash Ngannou, Stipe, any of those guys, because size does matter, man. Size does matter. Hafthor Bjorn. Is that his name? Bjornsson. I think that is his name. The mountain, right? And he's a legit guy. He's not just a guy that's on. Let me see. I'm going to pull him up real quick for you. I want to show you guys what I was talking about. Yeah, that is his name. I'm going to pull something up real quick. Is that him? Yeah. One second, guys. See if you guys can see this. This guy is an absolute beast. And see, he just had a fight. But this guy, he never trained fighting or nothing like that. There's actually a really cool video where you can see he actually went over to the Minnesota Vikings training camp and he was hanging out with the NFL Minnesota Vikings and he towered over these guys. He was a giant compared to these guys. And typically, I do understand, as far as the frame goes, it's not always, a giant guy would do good or this and that. You think about these basketball players, if they would be good tight ends. In football, once you get to a certain height, over 6'6", you're too tall. They're going to start cracking your legs and whatnot. But as far as fighting goes, if you're tuned up and you could wrestle and this and that, I don't think that you can never be too big, especially a guy like this. I mean, this guy is a physical specimen. This guy is coordinated. This guy is a legit athlete as well. So he's won some of the world's strongest men competitions, which that's no joke in itself. Winning the world's strongest men competition, that's a legit sport. And I think he even got into it kind of late and he still thrived. And there's been very few men that have won, the world's strongest men. Man, it's legit. And you see him training his boxing. Now imagine this guy was training wrestling from the age of 5. Let's see if we can pull this up. I don't know how he hits. Let's see how he hits. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to work on that, but yeah, man, but just to talk about the monster weight champions and look at the size of the gloves this guy's got to wear. Oh, good. But he holds the deadlift record. See, Pablo knows his stuff. Boom. I mean, that's no joke right there. You're talking about a crazy athlete. But again, one more time, imagine a guy like him. Imagine a guy like him that was training MMA from a young age. Imagine a guy like that training wrestling from when he was just a little kid. I mean, that would be something to watch, and that's kind of what Brock Lesnar was too. Brock Lesnar was, we talked about it earlier with Logan Storley. How funny was that? Logan went to the same high school and same college as Brock Lesnar. But if Brock Lesnar was training MMA from a kid, forget it. He got away with his wrestling background, of course, and then he was a freak athlete with the freak reach and all that. So one of these days we're going to start to see, some of those guys come in. Francis Ngannou is somewhat of an example of that, of an anomaly as far as the body type goes and all that. How do you see Cruz versus Casey going, and who is your money on? Yeah, I've been back and forth on that fight. I've been talking to a couple people about that. You guys know I'm a big Casey fan. I've been betting on him as of recently. He's been coming through. Dominic Cruz, though, excellent footwork. He has the fighter IQ. He has it all down. But he's up there in age. I don't know, man. My initial lean is going to be Casey, I think. But Dominic Cruz is alive in that fight. I believe Dominic Cruz is a slight dog as of right now. And if you're feeling that, there's no shame in that. I wouldn't be opposed to a Dominic Cruz value play. But I think I'm taking Casey. And I'd probably, if I'm making the bet, I would even go with the line with Casey. I think that Casey's more in his prime. Casey is a real judokan, solid judo, great striking, great wrestling, all that. So Dominic Cruz is going to really have to be on his bicycle. On the top of that size, he is also juicing, which make it dear me impossible to compete against. Hey, that's a good point. I would have loved to see Lesnar versus Ngannou. Do you think Costa will bounce back off his Whitaker, or is Whitaker too much? I got Whitaker winning that fight. I think he's going to put on a better performance, obviously, than he did in his last fight, but I'm taking Whitaker. I think Whitaker, people have been sleeping on Whitaker. You saw what he did in his last fight. I take Whitaker. I got Whitaker. I think Whitaker is a guy, and don't forget, he was just a champ. I mean, he lost to the best guy in the division, and he's been winning fights since. And Whitaker's striking's nasty. His takedown defense, all that is good. Of course, that fight will be a striking matchup, but I think that Whitaker is more diverse with the head kicks, this and that, and I think that he'll be the better fighter. And Paulo Costa, he has holes in his game, man. The way that he mentally collapsed in that fight against Izzy, I don't think I could trust him there. I took some serious notes on Arman Sarukian. I'm sure you've been seeing what I have been. Yeah, Arman Sarukian, like I said, I had him involved in that 14 parlay when he was initially supposed to be fighting before the Frivola fight. Again, he was, Nasrat. And you guys know I'm very high on Nasrat as well. I don't care. Give me Arman at minus 300 all day. I'll take the money. Let me mix that in a parlay. Arman Sarukian, the guy's grappling is top of the line. His striking is top of the line, and he's going to be winning a lot of fights. I'm telling you guys right now, he's going to cruise his way to the top of the division. He will be fighting for the championship eventually. I'm telling you right now, Arman Sarukian, take note and collect some money on him as he moves through the ranks. Some of the lines are going to be high. Grab them early. Take what money you can get from Arman Sarukian. I'm telling you guys right now. All right, boys. We've been rolling for about 1 hour and 11 minutes. I appreciate all you guys as always. Please like this video for me. I want to keep you guys up to date a little bit. You know, we had Logan Storley on earlier in the show. If you guys are just tuning in, rewind it. You can rewind the tape back. Check out that interview. Logan's the real deal, and I appreciate him giving me his time. What else? Oh, my prediction video for the Alistair Overeem Volkov fight card will be out to you guys tomorrow morning. So I've been sniping some plays on there. So check out the prediction video. What else? If you guys are interested in working with me on my plays, you guys know the deal. You could always reach out to me on Instagram, DM, MMAfortuneteller@gmail.com if you want to shoot me an email for any type of promos, ads, this and that, man, whatever. I appreciate all you guys. Please like this video. Spread the word. I'm trying to get this channel to grow. Waiting on life to become back to normal so we can start hitting up these UFC events. And we'll see how long that takes. But I do appreciate all you guys. It's been a pleasure. I will catch you guys back here next Thursday. And I have a lot of interesting fighters that have already agreed to come on. So they will continuously be popping up here on your screen Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, boys. I'll catch you later. You guys all have a good night. I'm losing my voice over here. Sitting here putting videos up, talking. I need to go get some tea. And maybe I'll even get a beer and wind this night down. All right, guys. Enjoy your guys' night. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Cayman. Have a good night, brother. Signing out.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.